Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Examiners and the Secretary of this final examination. Good morning. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Reza Putri from NK 16. In this beautiful morning, I would like to thank for the opportunity that has been given to me to present my final assignment with the title Expressive Language Used by Autistic Main Character in Christian by Movie. Introduction. A language disorder is a disorder of communication that causes the sufferer to have a difficulty in learning and using various forms of language, such as spoken, written, or even sign language. And one of the type of language disorder is expressive language disorder. Expressive language disorder is the inability to express ourselves through speech that aims to convey messages to other people. And people who usually experience this disorder is people with autism. Autism or autism spectrum disorder refers to a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skill, repetitive behavior, speech, and nonverbal communication. The language of autism sufferer in expressive language disorder includes verbal and nonverbal impairment. Nonverbal impairment is indicated by autism when they are not able to express their emotion in a descriptive word and phrases. So it relates to the inability through writing, while in verbal impairment, it relates to the inability to express communication through spoken words and sentence, and it involves chronological disorder, syntactic disorder, semantic disorder, and also pragmatic disorder. The purpose of this research is to describe what kinds of expressive language disorder through verbal impairment produced by an autism sufferer in Pristine by movie in 2017. The reviews of related literature. Okay. So psycholinguistic is a part of the macrolinguistic that discuss about language acquisition, language knowledge and usage, and also language production and comprehension. So in this research, the researcher will focus on the language production and comprehension that relates to how the language was produced, especially by people with autism. So, a study of a discussion in one of study of a discussion in psycholinguistic is a language disorder. Is it relates or involves the processing of linguistic information, and one of the type of language disorder experienced by autism sufferer is expressive language disorder. According to American Psychiatric Association, expressive language disorders are characterized by linguistic features such as restricted speech, weak vocabulary abilities, word finding problems, vocabulary errors, condensing sentences, grammatical errors, limited varieties of sentence forms such as imperative and questions, and also difficulty in communicating ideas and slow rate of a language development. So, in a simple way, expressive language disorder is a language disorder that makes the sufferer have a difficulty in conveying or expressing information using words to communication with other people. And individuals who experience expressive language disorder, one of them are autism people. So, according to Kenner, autism is a condition evidenced by the lateness of speech learning and the failure to use communicative speech, repeated words, pronoun rehearsal, and improvement interaction with others, repeated and stereotypical play behaviors, and normal physical appearance. Carroll categorized autism language difficulties in speech into four forms. Sorry for the noise. So, Carroll in 1985 categorized autism language difficulties in speech into four forms. They are phonology, syntax, semantic, and pragmatic. Phonology, it refers to the rules of speech sound production. Uh, according to Randall, the phonological disorder is the speech sound disorder that can be defined as inability in comprehension and the use of speech sound system. And according to Booster, autistic children obviously made some kind of phonological errors such as substitution, assimilation, addition, and deletion. And people with autism who experience this disorder also experience delay in acquisition of consonant. Syntactic is the study of a sentence rules and information in language. And according to the Ham and Lobeck, syntactic will combine the words into larger unit, such as a sentence. And people with syntactic disorder, such as autism, cannot combine the words into sentences during a conversation. Pragmatic concern with the encoding of information structure, and individuals with autism show a limited spoken language, and they have difficulty expressing themselves in social situations. And also, people with autism show significant difficulties in conversational context. They show laxity in their understanding of the speaker-listener relationship. Semantic is the study of meaning or reference and truth. So, Mathieu and Scobler describe semantic skills in autistic children as difficulties with words that change the meaning. As a Kenner's classic observation, they also use unusual words and phrases and have difficulty in understanding the meaning of what is being said to them. So it's about the meaning. And the researcher chose a movie as a data analysis in this research. And according to Triento, movies are the result of the creative process of filmmakers who combine various elements such as ideas, value system, views of life, beauty norms, human behavior, and also technological sophistication. The reason why the researcher chose a movie as data analysis in this research is because movie use an expressive language as a medium to convey message or stories to the audience, and this can be and it can be seen from the visualization and also the vocalization that play by the actor in the movie. The researcher found some previous studies which relate or relevant to this research. The first one belongs to Nevia in 2018. The researcher found some previous the researcher discussed the expressive language disorder experienced by one of character in the movie that has autism in a Mercury Rising film. And the second research belongs to Effie in 2016. The researcher tried to find out the kind of language disorder and some of the treatments that are given to them, which show by one of the main characters from the movie. And the third research belongs to Suherman in 2015. The researcher used descriptive qualitative method and psycholinguistic approach. The researcher described the type of language disorder faced by the main character in the movie. And the other research done by Adi Rahma Octavia in 2018. So the researcher focused on expressive language used by autism sufferer in communication, and the data was taken from observation to autism sufferer and interviewing a counselor, teacher, and also the sufferer's parents. And last, It belongs to Lethia Jeffrizel and Marlena in 2019. So the researcher aims to find out the types of language disorder and to find out the dominant type of language disorder that found in autistic 7 portrayed in Levinson Raymond movie or film. Okay, the researcher categorized the utterance that related to expressive language based on the symptom that indicate the type of expressive language disorder. So the researcher will categorize the types of expressive language by looking at the symptom that's shown by Wendy as the main character with autism in the movie. The data analysis that used in this research is descriptive qualitative. The data source in this research are the movie and movie script from Please Stand By movie in 2017. So in the process of collecting data, the researcher used table as an indicator that contain each aspect to analyze. So here is the table. So this table will categorize the types of expressive language disorder based on the symptom or the characteristic that's shown by the main character in the movie. The researcher also used code and color to make it easier for the researcher to categorize the types of expressive language disorder. After collecting the data needed, the next step that the researcher take is analyzing the data by following several steps. The first one is by identifying. So the researcher identified the data by giving a highlight to the script, and then after identifying the data, the researcher will classify the data dealing with the statement of problem. And after that, the researcher will apply and explain the expressive language disorder of autism sufferers, which is shown in the autistic main character in the movie and her behaviors that involves language disorder, including expressive language disorder. Result and discussion. Okay, so in this session, the researcher will show what types of expressive language disorder experienced by the autistic main character in Please Stand By movie in 2017. The first types of expressive language experienced by the main character with autism in the movie is syntactical disorder. This disorder can be seen when the sufferer shows several symptoms such as less complex utterance, less complex noun and verb phrase, less complex question, and repeated words and phrases. And also, the first symptom that the autistic character in the movie shows is less complex utterance. In the symptoms, the main character has difficulty in producing language, and she only utters a word or two words in her speech. So that we can see in data one. Data one shows that the main character only said one word when expressing her success in manage to complete 3 seconds of eye contact with Scotty. And in data 2 and 3, it also shows that the main character only answer the question from other people with only one word without following by other complements and words. The other symptom that shows the main character in the movie has a syntactic disorder is less complex question. Less complex questions uh, generally occurs when the main character only use one word from the question words without being followed by the other components. So we can see in data 4 and 5, it shows that Wendy, the main character with autism, produce only one word from the question words without being followed by the other component, such as auxiliary verb, subject, and the main verb. And the other symptom that shows Wendy has a syntactic disorder is repeated words and phrase. It occurs when the main character Wendy says something over and over again for the same word and phrases. And like we can see in data 6 and 13, it shows that Wendy produced a sentence when urging produce a repeated words and phrase when urging someone to do what she wants. And in data 7, 8, 9, uh, 12, 14, and 15 shows that Wendy said the same sentence over and over again when experienced panic. And in data 10 and 11, we can see that Wendy repeat the word when she feels excited or happy. And in data 16, it shows that Wendy experienced these symptoms when she felt angry. So the other types of expressive language disorder experienced by Wendy is semantic disorder. So this disorder can be seen when the sufferers show difficulties in conveying and receiving messages. Like explained by Lord and Paul, it stated that autistic children have a difficulty understanding the meaning of is what is said to them. That we can see in the data below. So the first symptom that show Wendy has a semantic disorder is difficulty conveying messages. So and these symptoms occurs when the main character Wendy has a difficulty in conveying messages and her thought. Like we can see in data 17, when Scotty asks how Wendy feels when her sister Audrey will visit her, Wendy explained her worries and fears about what might happen when Audrey visits her. So she explained her nervous feeling by describing it as when she needs to pee but she wants. So she has a difficulty in choosing the right words to describe her feeling at that moment. And then in data 18, Winnie also seems to have difficulty in choosing sentence that describe her needs at the time. So in this conversation, Winnie was on the bus with uh, her dog and Pete. But after a while, the dog barked, signaling that he wanted to pee. Then Wendy went to ask the bus driver Doris for the restroom, and we can see that rather than asking where the restroom was or the place the restroom or the place uh, of the restroom, she instead said that his friend needs to pee. So it's more better when Wendy directly asks the place or where the restroom was instead of announce that her dog needs to pee. The other symptom that shows Wendy has a pragmatic disorder is difficulty receiving messages. So the symptoms occurs when the main character Wendy has difficulty in receiving messages from other people, which usually cause her to often being confused. Okay, in data 19, uh, when the bus driver directed Wendy to the bus terminal for the bus to go to Los Angeles. However, after hearing the bus driver, Wendy went the other way. That shows Wendy doesn't understand about the bus driver words. And in data 20 also shows how Wendy has difficulty in receiving a message. It's when Wendy was about to board the bus driver asked for a ticket from Wendy because at the time Wendy did not have a ticket. So the bus driver explained to Wendy that she had to have a ticket in advance to get on the bus, and instead of buying the ticket, Wendy wrote down the words of the bus driver into her notebook. So the bus driver immediately directed Wendy to buy to buy a bus ticket in advance. So it shows that Wendy has a difficulty in receiving a message from the bus driver Doris. And in data 2021, Wendy also has a difficulty in receiving messages from other people. It's seen in Wendy's conversation with the ticket agent. So in the conversation, the ticket agent told Wendy that the money she had wasn't enough to buy a ticket, but it seemed that Wendy did not understand that her money, that the money she had wasn't enough, and kept counting the money keep counting the money. Other types of expressive language disorder experienced by Wendy with autism in the movie is pragmatic disorder. So, pragmatic disorder it can be seen when the sufferer shows a difficulty in understanding the context of conversation and difficulty in maintaining the ongoing topic of communication. And the pragmatic disorder can be observed in such turn-based conversation. So the first symptom that show Wendy has a pragmatic disorder is difficulty understanding the context of conversation. The symptom occurs when the main character has difficulty in understanding uh, the context of uh, understanding the context of a conversation. This symptom occurs when the main character has difficulty in understanding the context that is spoken by her interlocutor. So we can see in data 22, where Wendy was asked by the ticket agent whether she would buy uh, one way or round trip ticket. Then Wendy doesn't understand the meaning of that sentence, so the ticket agent have to explain to Wendy what the words mean. And then in data 23, Wendy also did not understand the meaning of the other person's speech. So it shows when Rose asked who she was traveling with and who was taking care of her at that time. Wendy literally answered she was traveling with her dog Pete and she was taking care of herself. The real meaning of Rose's words is that Wendy should not travel alone without her family or other people who can look after her, because people like Wendy need special supervision. And in data 24, Wendy also doesn't understand what the other person really means. So this can be seen in Wendy's conversation with the ticket lady. So when the ticket lady wants to close the ticket booth, she asks Wendy if she had if she have if she has a place to go. So Wendy answered literally her destination, but what the ticket lady mean was whether Wendy had a place to stay that night until the ticket booth opened. So open again the next day. And when the ticket lady said to be careful, Wendy actually explained how she was careful when crossing the road. And what the ticket lady means was that Wendy had to be careful with the crime at night because she wanted to sleep outside the ticket booth. And in data 25, Wendy responds to the words of her interlocutor literally because Wendy doesn't understand the true meaning or the real meaning of her interlocutor's words. It shows when Audrey, her sister, want to say what their that mother want to them both. So we can see that Wendy respond that their mother want nothing more because their mother had died. So in this conversation, Wendy took Audrey's word literally without even knowing the real meaning of Audrey's words. So the other symptoms that show Wendy has a pragmatic disorder is difficulty maintain the topic of ongoing communication. So it occurs when the main character Wendy cannot maintain topic being discussed in the conversation with other people. So she tends to change the topic of conversation that usually has nothing to do with the previous topic of conversation. So, like we can see in data 26, when Audrey had not finished explaining, Wendy immediately talked about the things that were not related to the topic of conversation that Audrey was explaining. And also in data 27, it also seen that Wendy cannot maintain a topic of conversation with her interlocutor that we can see from the conversation between Wendy and Rose. So when Rose was talking about her grandson who has special needs like Wendy suddenly took out a photo of her niece Ruby, so from her bag. So from this data, it can be seen that Wendy cannot follow the interlocutor's current topic of conversation. So based on the movie, Wendy, who suffers from autism, has difficulty in several categories of expressive language disorder experienced by people with autism. Uh, the first category of expressive language disorder experienced by Wendy is syntactic disorder. Wendy experienced some of the symptoms of disorder, and in this case, Wendy is often seen to repeating the same sentence or phrase over and over again. And Wendy also seems to utter less complex utterance and less complex questions. And the second category of expressive language disorder that Wendy experienced is semantic disorder. Wendy faces semantic disorder, which is involves her inability to understand someone's speech. And And then the other types of expressive language disorder experienced by Wendy is a pragmatic disorder. She faced a pragmatic language disorder, and then has she faced the difficulties in understanding the context of a conversation, and she also sometimes has had difficulties in maintaining the topic of ongoing communication. Okay, for the conclusion, uh, based on the explanation above, the researcher found that not all the types of expressive language disorder were experienced by Wendy, who has an autism. From the data obtained, Wendy does not experience phonological disorder when speaking. The researcher found no data that supported the presence of phonological disorder in the data source because there are no words spoken by the main character that refer to the symptoms that related to the phonological disorder in the movie. And and the researchers see that Wendy can speak clearly and well without difficulty in producing consonants or even syllables. Although there are some obvious symptoms, overall Wendy is able to communicate with other people. So, of all the types of expressive language disorder experienced by Wendy, one of the type that looks more dominant is syntactic disorder, which has a clear symptoms of a repetition word and phrases. And this can be seen through Wendy's words in the movie Please Stand By in 2017. Okay, I think I have present all the content of my final assignment from chapter 1 to chapter 5, and that's all of my presentation. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and I will be ready to answer some question, and hopefully I can answer all the question well. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.